Hello and welcome to this episode of Healthy and Happy Senior Living. In this show, we provide news, information, tips, tools, all for healthy senior living. I'm your host, Stephen Carter, and I am also CEO for Stress Solutions USA. For our first story, let's go to the January 17th, 2023 story in Medical Express, originally from the British Medical Journal. Headlines: frequent visits to green space linked to lower use of certain prescription drugs. And the lead paragraph: frequent visits to urban green space such as parks and community gardens in Finland, rather than the amount of views of them from home, may be linked to lower use of certain prescription meds, suggesting research published online in Occupational and Environmental Medicine. The article goes on to share information, the observed associations between frequent green space visits and lower use of drugs for depression, anxiety, insomnia, high blood pressure, and asthma were not dependent on socioeconomic position. Exposure to natural environments is thought to be good for health, but the evidence is inconsistent, say the researchers. They wanted to find out if the amount of residential green and blue space, i.e. bodies of water, frequency of green space visits, and views of green and blue spaces from home might be separately associated with the use of certain prescription meds. They chose prescription meds as a proxy for ill health, and those for anxiety and insomnia, depression, high blood pressure, asthma in particular, because they are used to treat common and potentially serious health issues. This is a good-sized study. They drew on responses of 16,000 randomly selected residents of Helsinki and other areas in Finland. And it goes on to talk about the process of the study. And bottom line, green space can be really good for your physical and emotional well-being. This showed the amount of residential green space and blue spaces or views from them from home were not associated with the use of prescription meds for mental health, insomnia, high blood pressure, but the frequency of green space visits was associated with a reduction in the use of those medication items. So if you want to get healthy, get outside and find yourself some green space. By the way, this article, as all articles that I reference in this episode, those will all be linked in the show notes. Would you like to stay youthful? Well, January 17, 2023, an article again in Medical Express. Headline: New research furthers case for exercise promoting youthfulness. And the lead paragraph: a recent paper published in the Journal of Physiology deepened the case for the youthfulness-promoting effects of exercise on aging organisms, building on previous work done with lab mice. Those mice had access to a weighted exercise wheel. Now, we are not mice, of course, nor rats or anything else but humans. However, this is just another study in a long list of studies showing the importance of exercise for maintaining not only your physical well-being, but also it's very likely going to help your emotional, mental well-being as well. Again, the story will be linked in the show notes. Evidence continues to grow, highlighting the importance of our gut health to our overall physical health, emotional well-being, and so forth. Indeed, the gastrointestinal tract does have what's called a second brain, and there's lots of research around that. But for this particular story from the British Medical Journal, deep meditation may alter gut microbes for better health. Lead paragraph, regular deep meditation practiced for several years may help to regulate the gut microbiome and potentially lower the risks of physical and mental ill health, finds a small comparative study published in the open access journal General Psychology. The gut microbes found in a group of Tibetan Buddhist monks differed substantially from those of their secular neighbors and have been linked to a lower risk of anxiety, depression, and cardiovascular disease. And this article and study goes on. I would encourage you, however, to take heart that to really make a difference in your physical and emotional health, and probably your gut health as well, meditation is important. And you don't have to necessarily sit and om for hours at a time. Breathing meditation for 10, 15 minutes, that can be beneficial. Not all meditation is good for all people, but for the vast majority of people, meditation matters. You're going to enjoy the benefits of better emotional and physical health when you engage in some type of meditative practice. And again, that can be mindfulness meditation. It can be what's called mantra meditation or sacred sound meditation, or it can be simply breathing, breath meditation. The easiest and the most effective, the quickest way to lower your stress response is by engaging in what's called 4-6 breathing. 4 seconds in through the nasal passages, 4 seconds in, hold, and 6 seconds out. So you count 4 seconds in, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And repeat that for a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And if your mind wanders, which it very likely will, simply bring your attention back to the breath and continue the breath meditation. Why 4-6? Because it affects the autonomic nervous system, which is the nervous system that controls your fight or flight as well as your rest and digest sides of the autonomic nervous system. So what you're looking for is to emphasize the calming effect, the rest and digest side of the autonomic nervous system, and you do that by exhaling for longer than your inhale. When you inhale, you're activating the sympathetic side of the autonomic nervous system, which is the fight or flight. When you exhale, you're activating the parasympathetic side of the autonomic nervous system. That is the relaxation response side, the rest and digest side. It's the calming side. It calms mind and body, and it's so simple. You can do this if you're at a traffic light. You can do it while standing in line in a food store waiting for to be checked out. Simply engage in unbalanced breath work through the nasal passages, in for 4, hold out for 6. Let us go for our next study. Let us go to Science Alert. Headline: Huge study reveals 4 eating patterns linked to lower risk of early death. Lead paragraph: there is a lot of dietary advice out there, but the science that links food and health isn't always clear-cut. A new study on the topic is one of the most comprehensive to date and has identified 4 eating patterns associated with lower mortality risk. Analyzing the eating patterns of more than 119,000 people over 36 years, researchers compared those patterns with 4 sets of recognized healthy dietary regimes: the Healthy Eating Index, the Alternative Mediterranean Diet, the Healthful Plant-Based Diet Index, and the Alternate Healthy Eating Index. Sticking closely to at least one of these patterns reduced the risk of premature death by any cause and cardiovascular disease, cancer, and respiratory disease, the study showed. While the other diets differ, they all include whole grains, fruits, veggies, nuts, and legumes. So this is really a worthwhile research paper. And again, I will have this linked in the show notes. If you are keen to live longer and be healthier, this is an important study to have a look at. So with that, I will say thank you for listening. Stay tuned, and we will have additional episodes of our podcast coming in just a few days. You'll find all kinds of good podcasts, information for stress management, stress relief. Find those at stressreliefradio.com. If you would like to be in touch, my email is cartermethod@gmail.com. Any questions or any comments you would like to share, I would love to hear from you. Until our next visit together, your host, Stephen Carter, wishing for you and your loved ones blessings in abundance.